It's ways back, 7, 8 trees back already. I got a mat, yeah. I like sticks. Right.
Alright, everybody, I think we'll start getting settled. I'll try to use my outside voice because I'm told I talk too late. I have a son here who, if he goes like this, I know it means mom talk louder. Or if you go like this, it means slow down if I talk too fast, okay? For our next meeting, we'll have a speaker. We'll have a microphone and some speakers, and I'm hoping to project up here. And that should be on our next meeting on May 11th, okay? So if you can't hear me, just let me know, okay? All right, so, you know, we can do the pledge even though it's not on there. I looked at other people's organization meeting and even our organization meetings, and they didn't have them on there. But Austin, can we, even if it's not there? Okay. All right, let's start this at 6 o'clock. Let's call the meeting in order. Let's do the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a special reorganization meeting by state statute. After an election, you have a meeting the third Tuesday. And that's when people start, as of midnight. This is your new board, your 4 new trustees and your new president. The president's welcome. I just want to say hello. Thank you for coming. I'm excited to work with the trustees, the committee members, village staff, fire department, and residents toward a common goal. My focus is to bringing this into more of a cohesive community. I really want to be community and have residents involved in as many ways as we can. I really want to have Maine be a welcoming place to live, to raise a family, and to have a business. It's a real honor to serve the residents. I'm just tickled to be able to do this and have so many people come up and want to be involved. I ask a favor, just call me Judith. Please don't call me President Hayes or anything else, just Judith, please. And if it's all right, I would rather use first names so that everybody's on a level playing field. That would be great. I want you to feel free to reach out to me for any I-ideas for improvement, any concerns you have, and any items that you had like in the works that I should know about, that we should address, that I don't know about. So from there, we're going to turn it over. This is Austin. He's with the Vanderlaw, and he is going to do the oath of office.
So by the power vested in me as an attorney in the state of Wisconsin, in accordance with Article 4, Section 28 of the Wisconsin Constitution and Wisconsin Statute 1901, I am now going to administer your oral oath. If you can raise your right hand. And repeat after me. I, Judith Hayes, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of Village President
and will faithfully
and impartially discharge the
duties
of the office
of the President of the Village of Maine,
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
If I can have the trustees stand. Raise your right hand. I, and say your name, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of the office of village trustee to the best of my ability.
of the office of village trustee to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
We're gonna move this along tonight. Austin needs to get going at 6:45. And this is a quicker meeting. Next item is gonna be discussion and possible action on trustee committee appointments to the Finance and Personnel Committee. We had an amendment to that, and that is up to the trustees, and it is up to a majority vote. So formerly, Tom Marquardt and myself were the trustees, and we do have 3 members of the residents, Matt Kozer, Aaron McCuffey, and Joe Yell, and they'll stay on as the resident members, but we need 2 trustee members. Is there anybody that has like the background in finance, personnel, and I can be on it as well. That is my background, but is there anybody who wants to nominate anybody or wants to discuss their background or why they'd be a great fit?
My personal opinion is that the finance and committee, I would like to, I don't see from the meetings that I went through where the village is getting, where are we getting what's their stated purpose? Where are they, what's going on? Where's the budget, like stuff, all the stuff that, I'm confused on, I'm not like behind the finance. That's just something that I wasn't, so when I ran, so let me finish.
Right.
So when I ran on my thing, the people that I talked to, the people that asked me to run for this, thought that the committee for the finance committee was not something they wanted. They thought it was an added cost to the village that weren't needed because we are all a village. The trustees have to approve everything anyway.
Number one, there was no cost to the village. Nobody got paid for being on the finance committee.
Okay, well, I don't know any of this.
If they do get paid, it's $30 a meeting, so it's about $1,800 a year for the finance committee. But I'll let Austin address that. There's an ordinance, there is a finance committee, and we're here to appoint 2 trustees to that committee. And it'll continue to.
I would make a motion that we repeal the ordinance of the finance committee. Agreeing with Dan that I don't think it's focused right, so I make the motion that we repeal the ordinance of Wisconsin.
I'll second the motion.
I'm pretty sure you have to repeal an ordinance within 60 days of it passing.
What it comes down to actually instead is what the agenda states is discussion and possible action on trustee committee appointments onto the finance and personnel committee amendment. So to keep in line just with open meetings law, and just let you know what the possibilities are, you could table the issue and then request next time to bring to the board whether to repeal or amend that ordinance. It just comes down to the appointments verbiage within.
Okay.
Then I will amend my motion to table this to the next meeting so we can discuss
We should add some verbiage so that it's on the agenda correctly for next time.
We really haven't had time to talk about it.
No.
Well, that'd be that.
I need to know more about the committee, I guess, is what, to see what about it, what's the purpose?
So there's a motion on the table, is there a second?
I'll second it.
And then, any other discussion?
So you received it as an attachment what the ordinance was. There's meeting minutes and every meeting minutes about what happened in those finance and personnel committee meetings. So do you want to be resent the ordinance and all of the committee minutes and the board, and there were presentations to the board of what happened? Do you want to be sent all those documents so that you can review them before the election? So that you can prepare yourself for what the background of what the committee.
Well, I mean, and we have.
We have, I don't know.
It's what's gonna convince people, I mean, what can you add to that? That's gonna convince people we should keep it. Other than that, when, I mean, have they met monthly, like it says?
Well, we haven't, I had a family emergency last month that we didn't meet, but before that, we've been meeting, yes. So you don't want,
The
you
last
don't,
set of minutes are out there.
now the meeting minutes were prepared and approved. They may not have been put up on the website by the clerk.
I'm just
but
saying,
we
that's
have
all
them.
we have there.
Okay, I can send you all of those meeting minutes and the reports to the board.
And I'm not saying that the finance committee isn't something that, I don't like the personnel and finance committee part. I mean, we don't hire enough people where the personnel part can't be right here. Is my opinion, yeah, so. I guess we take it away.
So the vote's to table the matter?
All those in favor?
All those opposed?
All those opposed? All right, that's number 5, discussion of possible action on trustee committee appointments to the Public Works and Property Committee. You were all sent that ordinance. That'll consist of 5 members. 1 member will be a trustee, and the other ones will all be residents. We're looking for trustees with municipal zoning, construction, and maintenance experience. Do you have anybody here who has that type of experience that you would like to nominate to serve on the Public Works and Property Committee?
I'm gonna make the motion that we table this item for 2 months so that the board has the opportunity to research this, understand what the responsibilities are, and determine if the breakdown of the committee is the way we do it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we have a motion. Does anybody want to second that?
I'll say that.
All those in favor?
I
So for number 6, the approval of the Public Works and Property Committee application is null because we're just going to table that. Austin,
Yeah.
for 2 months, okay. Move on to number 7, discussion and possible action on approving an interim building inspector and zoning administrator. Everybody has the proposal. This is from Darren Poggle from Northwest Inspection in Merrill. He has a contract for services. He is the building inspector for Merrill. Actually, in the 1990s, he was the building inspector in zoning for the village of Maine and for Brokaw. Very well respected. He also does some moonlighting for Stettin, and I can't remember the other village. So his, just as a background, the cost of our previous zoning administrator was a total cost to the village of $95,000. So what Darren Poggle proposes is $150 per hour for zoning and related activities and $150 per visit for inspections. So last year, to give you an idea, the village of Maine had 8 new home builds, and there are about 3 inspections per home. So it's about 24 inspections times $150, so it's about $3,600 is what it would cost us for Mr. Poggle. Based on 2024 and 2025 meeting minute documentation, we had 8 zoning issues and ordinance issues were introduced to the planning commission and at board meetings. So we've already talked to Darren also about updating the village ordinances. I know it's a point of contention not having ordinances and zoning on the website. And so we also have a way to fix that systemic problem. So you all have that proposal in front of you for discussion. What do you think?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I've got questions. So is he going to do this on a long-term basis, or is this a short-term fix?
He is willing to do this on a long-term basis, but he is hoping that he knows we need him right now because we have things pending. He would prefer that we look for a part-time zoning administrator. Doesn't think we need a full-time one, but in his opinion, a part-time one. But he will be the inspector and zoning in the interim just to keep things going and smooth and moving.
So,
That's a good question, Wes.
shouldn't this been gone through the finance and personnel committee according to, for lack of a better word,
Austin can address that because there's a different type of an urgency when you have a zoning administrator resign and you have to keep things going and you're bringing in an intern. So we were not
Is there
hiring.
verbiage in that allows that ordinance?
Yeah, because the finance committee would just be making recommendations to the board, and there's a new hiring policy. So if we were hiring a zoning administrator, that would go through the personnel and finance committee. This is an interim contract to keep things moving.
Yeah, I'll second that.
I make a motion that we accept it. As a, it is interim, so.
Well, you just said it was gonna be full-time, not interim.
Well, he's not full-time.
Or no, this is long-term, not interim. So
Right.
is it
As long as
long-term or
we-
is it interim?
It's an interim, long-term, as long as you need him. Like, we could have a fire chief for 2 years interim. It's an interim as long as you need him to fill that role, to keep things moving along.
Until he hires.
Right, until you hire a zoning. He's willing to keep on in the inspections, but recommends that we would look at a part-time zoning administrator.
Or inspection and zoning if we want to do it, because he'd be interim, right?
Right. We're focusing on keeping those things moving along.
Could there have been a motion for the second table that night? No motion was ever made. The second item having to do with public works.
Yes, there was motion second.
For the first one. But the
There
second,
was a second one.
Yep.
For number 5.
Number 6.
number 6,
Number 6.
there was no motion.
When I talked to Austin about that, and he said since it's kind of null, we don't have to approve the application, or should we go ahead and table it, Austin? Number 6 for the application, we're gonna table the Public Works Committee appointments. It's a good question. So for number 6, for the approval of the Public Works Committee application and due date,
You skipped a number you have.
right?
Motion that we table number 6. Same as number 5.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Cindy. So we are at the discussion and action for approving the interim building inspector and zoning administrator. We had a motion by Dan and Bruce. All in favor to the approval from Dan and Bruce. All those in favor to bring on.
Before we do that, are we going to leave done with that discussion? Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 8 is discussing and possible action on improving an interim clerk and treasurer. So the current clerk and treasurer position has been removed via the referendum. We know that the referendum approved having a clerk and a separate treasurer. Also, the current clerk treasurer term expires on April 9th or April 29th. So we have a resume for an interim clerk, and she can also fulfill like a deputy treasurer. Her name is Jamie. I can pronounce it right, Jamie Heindel. She's the former Stratford village clerk. She has 5 years' experience as a village clerk. She has done all the responsibilities that go along with that. She's graduated from the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Institute. Jamie maintained the Stratford website. She not only prepared agenda and meeting minutes for the board, but she also does the 5 committees and the 2 commissions. Prepares the agenda packets, and they're all uploaded and they're easily found on the Stratford website. Also of note, Jamie creates and maintains the village ordinances, make sure they're uploaded on the website and up to date. Jamie also completed the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Institute Treasurer crossover, and she fulfills the role of deputy treasurer. She's proficient in the workforce accounting software that we use. She reconciles 15 bank accounts every month. She creates and maintains the village budget, and she can fill that role in the interim for now. Also, Jamie could be on site at the village hall. She has hours that she works. She'd like to work full time. I did show you the Excel sheet so that you can see. You have Jamie's resume. And then you also have the look on the very bottom of your packets. So this one here, where it'll show you what Jamie's compensation is now and what Jamie's compensation would be as a village proposed compensation. So right now, the total for Jamie's compensation for the village of Stratford is $72,620. For the village proposal with the same type of vacation time, 4% employer retirement, she gets the health care benefit, it would be $76,250. Now to compare that, the total that we're paying for the clerk treasurer right now, is for the clerk treasurer, we had a budget of $79,940, but since mostly because the health subsidy wasn't used, we paid an actual of $69,600. For the deputy clerk, which we are not doing the deputy clerk had a budget of $75,376, and the actual for the deputy clerk was $71,226 for the village. So when you compare that to somebody who can be a village clerk and a deputy treasurer, in my opinion, it's well worth the cost. And then when we did have a separate clerk, yeah.
Did you include all of the other line item budgets in the deputy clerk and the clerk
Yeah, I have
categories? Because some of those don't apply to wages. There's
Right,
office
so I have the
supplies and all
salary,
of that.
and then I have retirement, and then I have the health subsidy, and then I have the treasurer mileage of $1,500, and then I have the phone. And that's all that I have also for Jamie. And then when we had a separate treasurer, for in 2023, that was $14,840 that it cost us. So I just wanted to give you a look at what she makes now, what the village would propose, and what we're paying now for the clerk treasurer and for a deputy clerk, just so that you're able to see comparison.
What does interim mean then? So is this a full-time hire, or is it, because it came across as an interim?
This would be a full-time intern.
And so are we looking for a replacement right away then?
So I actually asked Austin about that because we have to have a clerk and a separate treasurer. He said we would have to bring up the separate treasurer at the May 11th meeting and then, discuss putting that out for, accepting applications for a part-time treasurer. But she can do the interim until now and then, but if it comes 3 months down the road and Jamie is doing a great job, then Austin said we can come back and say, do we want to bring her on as a hire, as a clerk?
So what has she been doing since November?
She's in a position.
She left her position in November. She works for Vanderpeest and she's honestly,
2020. Okay.
So why don't we just keep Cindy on and do the same thing with her replacement? We don't have to train anybody.
because Cindy's role expires on April 29th
So we
and is
rehire.
no longer a clerk treasurer.
So,
Position.
I mean, it's no different, we can hire her, no different. from this.
She was on the contract.
It was an appointment that expires on April 29th.
Okay,
April 30th, actually.
okay, and then why would then we not consider, redoing that?
One, the position is no longer available.
Treasurer position.
Reappointed to this position, or Jamie.
It's just the clerk and then you hire a treasurer.
Okay. That's what we're gonna do anyways.
Then it has to go through, well, then it would be interim, then it would have to go through a hiring process. Austin?
For,
But we need an interim, obviously. We've got to check, right? We need somebody to, that's why I'm asking, is this an interim where we can still get resumes and stuff from people, or is Jamie only doing this if we hire her for a year? You know what I mean? Is there a way that it could be put into a 3-month hire, at these wages, so everything's that way, so that we actually, how do I say this nice? So that we actually know how everything flows.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then if she does a great job, which looks like she has all the bells and whistles, if she does a great job, then we bring her on full. And
That's
then
what
maybe Cindy has, or if we could turn a resume in to be treasurer or something, because we have to hire a treasurer, right? So then we could have other resumes coming in during this time, your resume could come back in, you know what I mean? And then
You have a resume for a clerk to be, I mean, while she's filling this position,
Right.
we still would have to accept resumes for that position.
Exactly, no, that's what I mean,
Like
yes.
you're saying,
I'm
for
saying
both
for
positions.
both positions.
Right.
Because then we get an idea of what.
Right.
I mean, she obviously has experience because she was there a long time. 5
Yes,
years, And I think we all know that Cindy had the experience to run it too, so. I guess what I'm asking, is she set on 1 year? You know what I mean? If we hire this Jamie, is it a 1 year, cut and dry 1 year? Because it's their life. I mean, what are they proposing to us?
And did you talk to her about this, or who talked to her? So what,
Well, Shane talked to her at length about this.
so what was there an understanding there was gonna be for a certain duration minimum, or?
That is an interim, and then we'll go from there. So
So there's no time frame. So if we find someone next week, she's done.
What was the definition of interim? Discussions.
so the discussion of interim, and what interim means is that the village should still be looking for a new clerk.
Right.
It's someone, and what we need to piece separately is full-time versus part-time and interim versus continuous hire, because with interim, the idea is that you're still going to have the job posted for clerk, you're still gonna have the job posted for treasurer, and you just need someone in that time to keep things rolling.
Stop it.
Yep. And then once the board agrees on who should be appointed, in this case a clerk, then that would then terminate.
And they get a contract, either for whatever length of time. But she's not asking for a contract in that length of time. I didn't mean to interrupt, but she's not asking for. I mean, we pick a.
I think if we go for like a 3 months or a year, that would be acceptable.
And one of the things is, the board does have the power to discuss and decide certain aspects of what would happen, such as start date and date. If you would discuss, that would just also be part of your motion if you make it. What my recommendation would be, quite frankly, is you already have a clerk that is still going to be here, so I would recommend that you have a start date at a later date, when, the day after Cindy's term expires.
By doing that, we have no coverage. I mean, she's going to come in with experience, but if she's walking in the door by herself, it certainly would be nice to have someone there to say, here, yes, you did this at Stratford, we do it a little differently, or it leans a little differently. Her learning curve is going to be somewhat, and it would be nice to have, I would say mentor, but it would be nice to have someone there that could say, oh, look here, oh, look here, versus her spending an hour or whatever trying to figure it out herself, and learning on her own.
I mean, it makes way more sense to appoint Cindy to keep doing what she's doing until we find that permanent replacement.
Now that I think about it, yeah.
So this person's gotta learn everything, I mean, we can interview her, and if she wants,
She'd
if she thinks she'd be the right candidate.
Is that something that Cindy's willing to do?
Just a mass. We got
Right.
Cindy sitting over there.
Yeah,
I don't know
am
what-
somewhat concerned if, I'm trying to understand where you're going with this, but so are you saying you like need to remain temporarily as the clerk, treasurer, utility clerk? And do everything that two people were doing? And we were very, very strapped for time. I'm not sure what you're asking or where you're going with this. It sounded like that's where you were going. I'm the only person in the office anymore.
My personal leaning would be is to do as Jude said, her in as an interim, to extend Cindy's contract, so that we've got the two of them working, one in the treasurer position, one in the clerk position.
So you'd have interim treasurer and interim clerk, and you'd still be taking.
Right, and you're not burying one or the other person with so much workload that they're set up for failure.
Does that make sense? Judith, what do you?
I don't know that that's on the, I'm always like, they're like, oh, that's not on the agenda, that's not the way it's written, that's not that we can do it. So I'm not really sure. I keep looking at Austin to see like,
It's,
what's doable here.
so it says discussion and possible action on appointing an interim clerk and treasurer. Then bullet point Jamie Heindel, former Stratford Village clerk, resume attachment, AA.
That makes a lot of sense, there, Bruce, to do that.
It's on there, written as treasurer, clerk and treasurer, so I think it's fine.
I think you're fine for meetings.
Excuse me, could we ask the board to speak up? It's really difficult to hear back here.
Okay, thank you.
So they would both be interim? And should we put out an application for both positions?
It's what?
Well, we have the current, we're sending the current position with a contract that is expiring, so that could be renewed if we wanted to for 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever, 2 years, whatever that position would be. It's just a matter of renewing that contract. And this one would be an interim, and it would define it as whatever we want to define interim to be, 6 weeks, 6 months, 3 months.
So it's- we're trying to figure out if we could have, did you catch that? Okay.
Cindy has a question.
I was just gonna comment that I think, it's with, for continuity in the village, it's where you're going with potentially renewing a contract. It would be, in my opinion, better to have, since I don't actually, we're talking contracts here, I have no contract. I was promised a contract and was never given one by the last board. So while my term will stand as being ended on April 30th, because I did put that in the minutes, the rest of what was verbally told me will not stand because I was never given a contract I was promised. However, I do think it's important to note that it would be a good thing to have a different contract and also get a list of division of duties, because with the way two boards back, knew I had presented it was, and I did complete what I promised, which was to train someone to be clerk. I did that, and then I was supposed to back off and be able to just be treasurer. So I think the division of duties needs to be adjusted, and I could create some kind of document with a possibility of defining duties that fit with a full-time person and then another person as treasurer. Because we have gone way past our days of having a very part-time, like 10-hour-a-week treasurer. Those days are gone and haven't been here. Because I'm acting as the utility clerk as well as the clerk and treasurer. And Stratford, where Jamie's coming from, they have 3 people and one acts as the utility clerk, and they're all full-time. And then one is a clerk and one is a treasurer. And they have 1,000 less people than we do.
So,
1,100 less people than we do.
okay.
So if we're gonna go this route, do we need to have another meeting next week? So we get this figured out.
Did anybody want to make the motion to?
But we still have to have something in order,
to bring
because
up
she's
the-
done
Right, there's.
beforehand, so we, whether we
So we
have.
gotta get together next week.
That's why, so what's the say we need to get together before.
Well, what do you, okay.
Or you could.
Or do we,
Or do we just bring Jamie on? And still have the meeting next week, so that this is on these minutes.
How do you
extend the
hire
contract?
somebody, do any kind of contract, without knowing what the duties are? We gotta define the duties.
I just don't want to pinch us into where we can't get people for that. Somebody's got to write checks.
If we meet again next Monday or Tuesday.
well, or do
Excuse
we,
me,
or
Dan.
do we look at extending, Cindy's contract for whatever X period of time? And as we work out the details of this, and work out, because they can, the two of these, Jamie and Cindy should coexist in the office fine, and then they can work out the details as far as if she's doing, if Jamie would be doing clerk duties and Cindy's doing treasury duties, they should be able to draw that line of demarcation fairly easily, without having
I just don't want to get jammed into, all of a sudden, April 29th is here, April 30th is here.
Right.
We have nobody to write checks.
Yeah,
You know,
right, exactly.
Jamie is very qualified in this position, and she has, you can see she's qualified, she has the education. And so she should also be a part of what a clerk does. She should be a part of that, what the description is and what she's qualified to do and what she'll be there. So I'm in favor of approving Jamie now, and she is part of that delineation of what my job skills are and looking at it versus the treasurer.
Can we do a meeting with Jamie and Cindy, a working meeting? Here's,
Can't do that if it's important.
Kind of, well, we could do a special board meeting, but it would be a working
I'm
session.
fine with the special board meeting, I just don't wanna be,
No.
all of a sudden we get hung up at that meeting and now we have no.
But what's the difference that's gonna happen on the 29th versus right now? I mean, don't you want Jamie to be a part of what the delineation, because you have her qualifications and what she's done at Stratford? I guess I'm not sure what the
So,
difference
the
is
question
on
is,
April 29th.
who's doing what? And
Right.
is there,
Yeah, you can't-
is there an issue of who's doing what? Because you
Right.
can't
Every
hire
person
someone
without defining the job.
without them knowing what their job is going to be.
What I'm saying is you don't want one person defining what the job is.
Oh, no, I think
You
she
want
should be
Jamie
involved
as a
too.
part of
She's-
it, right?
No, I-
And so what would change on the 29th? What would change on the 29th versus right now? What we know what Jamie's qualifications are as a clerk? And why wouldn't you bring her on like starting tomorrow and then they
So we're
can
gonna
start
define, we're gonna
melding
tell her
that,
what her job
they can
is.
start melding that right now and working in the office together. I guess I don't understand why you would wait.
No, I'm,
I don't know what the
that's
purpose
my
of that would
thinking
be.
is, that I mean, we could still meet in a week if we want to just rehash it, but, if we brought her on,
We have to do clerk treasurer, right?
we have the clerk and treasurer, right?
So
So
we
we
would-
got Cindy in the treasurer role, we bring her on in the clerk role, and said the two of them should be able to kind of figure out what they're doing, because, hey, you're a clerk, that's your responsibility, you're a treasurer, that's your
Give them
responsibility.
a week to go. Yeah,
It's
just
really
go
important
forward.
for a village to have a clerk / deputy treasurer. So if the clerk is on vacation, the treasurer can fill in as clerk.
Right.
And then you have a treasurer, deputy clerk, who can fill in when the other one is out and on vacation, so that they can, which Jamie also has the qualifications for.
So they would be.
Cindy?
I just have one other comment, in kind of as a comment back to, she should be involved in the division of duties. To a certain extent, that is true, but she's coming from a very different municipality than ours. I looked at her duties that she did, and the village of Stratford is vastly different than us. So from that standpoint, she's gonna know all the statutory stuff, but I'm gonna know all of the other stuff that isn't necessarily statutory driven, but are things that have to get done at this particular municipality because we have different things going on.
Which is really important for her to learn as a clerk, if you need the clerk, you know. But they might have less residents in Stratford, but they also have an elementary school, a middle school, a high school, a library, a fire department, a police station. You know, they have a lot more going on. Like she said, she reconciles 15 bank accounts every month. And so they may have less residents, but there's more going on in her
Right.
job. And
But
so,
that,
yeah.
that doesn't necessarily transfer over here.
Yeah, but-
It proves and shows her strong skill set, but, you know, it's like any other person would, you know, we have our skill levels, we have our things, but if Ben picks up and moves to Lincoln County and works over there, it's not gonna be sit down and do everything right away because procedures are different,
Right.
responsibilities are different.
Right, and
We
then
just
you'll
have-
pick that up.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the two of them, as Dan mentioned, the two of them can work out those details, and if one is clerk and deputy treasurer, and the other one is treasurer, deputy clerk, you know, they can work out those ideas and differences, and maybe say, hey, you take this, I take that. But we can't bring we can't risk the village being without people on the 29th.
How do you be respectful for how long you bring her on? Because it's somebody's life, you know, it's like, you know, so is 3 months acceptable? I mean, that would be, within 3 months, we should know, and then we can do an emergency meeting if needed, you know, to discuss the
I
Cindy
think 3
extension.
Would you do both of them for 3 months?
Yeah,
You
we
would
could,
do the clerk and treasurer for 3 months, but then do you want to continue to be receiving other applications?
yes, for sure.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So they both for 3 months.
Because then we have to do that because we have to have
Or do we do
And then after
3 months and then
reassess,
we take applications and try and do a hire in 3 months?
or reassess and see how's it going.
Right,
exactly.
right, yeah.
You
Yeah,
comfortable
because-
with that?
So is the gist of this that even though I've been here 11 years and I've worked for a year as a treasurer, and 8 years as a clerk and 2 more years as a clerk treasurer, that I need to reapply for my position? Is that what you're, because that's the feeling I get.
Yes,
And I'm
everybody
asking you
will have
as
to
a whole,
reapply.
as a board, not just one person.
I think in the ordinances, we have to do due diligence. I believe that's what it calls for, right?
Yeah.
So your resume obviously is probably gonna carry more weight between me and you because you've been here that long. But we still need to have them, in my, from what I read, yeah, you still need to be able to sit down, because it's not our money, it's the taxpayers, to say that this is the person we picked out, you know? It's nothing against, you know, I don't mean it as, like, you don't know what you're doing, you know what I mean?
I think it should be 6 months, and I think 3 months is just gonna be growing, especially for her.
I'll make a motion that we hire Jamie, I'm sorry,
I don't,
and as one, or we go separate, and Cindy Bailey. So Jamie would be clerk, treasurer,
deputy treasurer.
deputy treasurer, and Cindy would be treasurer, deputy clerk.
We'll have to define it.
Of course, yeah, on a period of 6 months, and then obviously the board would.
So that motion's on the table. But then I think though we should have, so in the start date then for Jamie is
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Whenever she's ready to start.
whenever she is, all right, sounds good. But then by our next meeting then, on the 11th, then we should have, they should have who's doing what, right?
Yes,
I mean,
right.
And you want that in motion?
I don't know if that's in that motion or if we have to make another motion, I don't know if that's.
I have a question. I feel like I'm at an unfair disadvantage here, because you've seen what she wants, but nobody has even asked me anything. No one on a board has asked me anything about what I need to change my position or anything. And everything at this point is up for grabs. I mean, number of hours, wages, all of that is obviously gonna be
So
affected.
is that
Could
right?
you,
For May 11th.
So
or
is,
can you have it ready before the?
Or do we just do it?
Put that together before the May 11th meeting?
Yeah, I can have it sooner than that, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I think it would be only fair to me to,
Yes.
I
To
agree,
see.
I agree.
do we know is Cindy's vacation and sick days and stuff, or are they,
Yeah, they're already in the personnel policy, they're already set.
and is Jamie
And
getting the same thing, or is she getting something?
exactly, yep, everybody in the village of Maine, it's, you know, depending on how long you've been here, depends on how many weeks vacation, but you get the 6 days, you can accumulate 30, you have 8 holidays, you have 3 personal days, we contribute 4% as the employer into everybody's retirement. They're both single, so they both get the health benefit of $6,350, they both get annual mileage of 15, they both get annual phone of 400. So yes, that's already set in the personnel policy and approved until 2028, actually.
Okay, but budget-wise, because Leah is left, we have that amount budget-wise
Right.
to be able to use
That's a
for
good
Jamie,
question.
right?
Yeah.
So we're not in pushing budgets.
No.
Okay.
That's a good point, Dan. So we have a motion from Wes to hire Jamie as clerk deputy treasurer, or not hire, it would be bring on as interim. Very good
Point
point.
as in-
Appoint as interim, and Cindy appoint as interim treasurer deputy for a 6-month period.
Agree.
Can you state that way when it's on the agenda that way?
Yeah, because it says, the item says interim clerk and treasurer.
I know, but you're not giving them, either of them, that title, you're adding a slash to it with another name.
You can take the slash out. Austin, should we just say clerk and treasurer and take out the slash? Clerk deputy treasurer,
You can
address that on May
You
11th.
can do a clerk and you can do a treasurer.
Okay,
You can address making each other deputies a different day.
okay.
We'll address that.
So,
Motion.
as a motion,
And do you want to do amended somehow?
saying, that they would have their jobs descriptions by May 11th.
They'll present something to us. And then, I don't know, that has to be part of the motion, just be part of the.
So, the way I understand the motion as it stands is that the board wishes to appoint Jamie Heindel as interim clerk. It wants to appoint Cindy Bailey as interim treasurer. It wishes to have each of these interim appointments last for a period of 6 months. And it wants a description of duties of the clerk and treasurer on May 11th, which I think we don't, personally, I don't think we should have that in the motion, you can just have it put up.
That's what I said. Just put it in the agenda.
So is Cindy's salary gonna stay at the 65 or?
Till the 11th
I
meeting.
think that's the May 11th meeting, to discuss that, we're gonna move that to the May 11th meeting.
Then you can tell us what you want by the May 11th. And we'll make a decision.
How do I pay myself in the meantime? I pay myself with a normal like that?
In the meantime,
Yes.
in the meantime, does the board have a position on compensation?
I can look at some numbers for treasurers, because we have a clerk treasurer, which upped the salary. And if it's treasurer, do you want me to see what village, do you want me to bring, on May 11th, do you want to keep it the way it is, and then on May 11th, look at treasurer?
If you're bringing somebody, if you're bringing somebody on in 6 months, it's gotta be, doesn't have to stay where it is right now.
Right now, I think,
Oh,
I think it would have to.
For 6 months.
But we also have to have what Cindy wants brought to us May 11th, so that we can see if we make a decision on that on May 11th.
Correct.
So, I'll second the motion, because I don't think there's any.
so Wes made the motion, Dan seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I do have a question though, because Cindy brings in her little dog, and Jamie will bring in her dog. Any problems with another dog? Does your dog like other dogs?
Keeps the riffraff out.
Other dogs don't like my dog usually.
We'll get that sorted. Okay, all right. The next village board and trustees meeting will be Monday, May 11th.
So are these jobs then posted?
We can't, I asked Austin that too, we can't address that until we get 11th. So on the 11th, we'll address posting jobs and putting up those
Okay.
job descriptions. Good question.
All right, I was just,
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the same thing, yes.
So question, not really on the agenda, but it applies to the next board meeting. So I was here earlier when, posting and stuff, I mean, for 20-some years, Betty did all the posting, did all the packets and stuff. So he just, I would assume that's the president's job.
No,
According to statute, it's not the clerk's job.
it's not the clerk's job to post agendas.
It
or
posts
to-
agendas, but not put
But not
packets
post-
together.
Not put the packets together or print them off.
Right.
And so I sent the packets to everybody via electronic.
Right. So,
How would I speak to Jamie about that?
okay,
Okay, but then it's no problem. It's no problem to come in and hook up to the printer and print everything off in their packets. Not a deal, not a big deal.
my printer doesn't work, and I don't, I'm like, I read
Oh,
this stuff.
can I ask about that, Austin, while we do? If they prefer to have their packets delivered, like come up and pick them up hard copy versus electronic. No, we can, I can email, I'll email your preference.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
So they don't deliver it anymore?
I will email you and ask preference. And so some people like them just electronic, and some people like them just hard copy.
Yeah.
And so I'll just email all four of you and get your preference. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Number 9. I mentioned that. The next village board of trustees meeting will be Monday, May 11th, 2026. Okay.
At 6. I'm sure you have time.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
Anybody want to second that? Thank you all for coming. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.